I'm just kidding. This is not a kids channel. We're talking about part 2 of the whole censorship thing. Last time we covered when companies lie to you and censor their true intent, and today we're going to be talking about when uh, television gets heavily monitored and everybody gets a little silenced. You know, the reason that Fox can't really be considered a news channel and more of an entertainment station. We live in a modern era where we're dealing with a lot of issues like that still. Recent age verification stuff. Just heavily, and it's sad because it's under the guise of, oh, it's for the children and whatnot, but the reality is, no, they just want to stalk us, they just want to be our little stalkers who know what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're breathing. Got to make sure that nobody's having an uprise. And, again, how unfortunate. And as a former child myself, I can also remember growing up on the internet and how that affected me. So, I do think the internet could stand to be monitored or whatnot, but the truth is, it's not so much the internet's job as it is the parents. And my parents, they tried their darndest to keep me off the internet as long as they could, but I still ended up anyway. And, the internet in the early 2000s was certainly different. Instead of Skibbity Toilet, we had Nyan Cat and stuff like that. And, if I had to go all over and do it again, I'm glad I was there. I met some lifelong friends there. Hell, I met my partner there. It's a pros and cons. Because on the other hand, yeah, made some lifelong friends, met my partner, but on the other hand, kind of did a number on my mental health to say the least. I won't go into that. Ultimately, though, I don't think there was any level of censorship that could really be done to prevent things like this from happening. Because, if you played Animal Jam back in the day, you know that it did not matter how many words they censored. They'd find a way to be freaking creeps. In the hand of the parents, point being. Keep your kids off the internet. We're starting to see the damage of Coco Melon and iPad time being entirely too vast. Uh, it's making up for a generation of interesting little human beings, that's for sure. This is why I will never have a fucking child. But before the internet, it was television. And, how did that start? How did that unroll? How did we get into such a predicament that we are in now? I don't think it was directly tied to the television, but I do think it started. And it probably went something kind of like what happened in Pangea. So let's get into that. It's another day in Pangea. Grandma's reading to baby. It's a wonderful time, and it's quite the interesting book. I'll let you have a listen.
High caliber shells from the Happy Hunter's gun. Fluffy was sad. Fluffy was mad. But what could the little lizard do? Luckily, his friend Jimmy the Weasel knew a guy who'd whack anybody for $50. Yay!
Riveting stuff. Point being, the rest of the family is less than impressed. They're too busy watching their mindless television called Lifting Heavy Objects. And all is fine, all is dandy, all is mind-numbing, until suddenly the dinosaur being featured, because it's kind of like a sneaking in on live television kind of thing. And, what would this guy do? Well, he would drop the equivalent to the F-bomb or the S-bomb on live television is what he would do.
All right, son. Now the key here is to lift with your knees.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, smooth!
Yeah, no, dude just casually dropped the F-bomb on live television, or the S-bomb, I'm not really sure to be honest. I remember when Earl says damn in the first season, personally. But it's a big shock, apparently that's not something you hear every day on television, or happened yet at all, from the looks of it. Because when they come in next day to work, with Earl there, talking to Roy about it like it's some grand taboo thing, like somebody told a freaking conspiracy theory on live telly. And of course, because the construction men are having merriment, Richfield just can't have that, so he summons Earl into his trailer office thingy.
In here now!
Yeah, Richfield calls him into the office for surprisingly good news, for once.
Yeah, he hates that.
It's actually about a promotion. And, at first things seem like they're going to go really well. Richfield casually threatens Earl, saying, I thought holding you underwater would be more productive to get you, but the company decides to offer you a little incentive piece to honor you and make you encouraged to work harder. And so Richfield's oh so generous self offers a paperclip. And on cue, Fran shows up with the baby because Earl forgot his lunch. And just as Earl is feeling glowing just from his little paperclip, baby Sinclair decides to call Mr. Richfield Shmoo. And Earl tries his damnedest to make sure that that's not, because Richfield's like, oh, what did he just call me? No, he called you Lou, his sweet Uncle Lou. And baby Sinclair, no, he just nails it home. You're a big shmoo! And it's a shmoo show.
Not shoo, smoo. A big, fat, smooey smoo.
Yeah, there's no saving that. So Earl gets a lovely punishment at work. Oh, poor dude. And so Earl finally gets to relax, but only for a moment, as he is tasked with fatherhood to watch the baby for an hour. Not a hard ask, really. And at first Earl tries to turn the baby around and just let him watch TV. But Fran interjects and says, I don't want the baby watching television right now. They're just saying shmoo all the dang time. All the shmooing time. Well, what do you mean? What am I supposed to do? Play with him. He's your freaking child. And of course, because Earl can't stand being a parent for more than about 30 minutes, he decides to make it a public issue, where he decides to call the TV network and say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't have a whole television show called The Shmoo Show. You shouldn't be saying it on television. And of course, the network think he's, a little bit cray-cray. Meanwhile, in the background, Grandma Ethel is doing her magic as an old-timer, knowing fully well how to get this child to stop saying that word. Just stop reading, because, that was their bonding point, Grandma's not going to be nice and friendly with you if you're going to be mean and say that word to Grandma. And, at first baby Sinclair doesn't get it, because he's a baby. And of course, Earl is not the only whack job parent who can't stand watching over what their kids are doing on watching television or online in our case, and gets into this PTA type meeting, or no, that's parent teacher conference. Sorry, I'm not a parent. Just gets together with all these adults and it's just like, all right, you know what, we're going to start protesting. We're going to stand outside the TV network and say, you can't do this stuff. We're going to get together and say that this stuff needs to be banned. And eventually, after huffing and puffing, they do eventually get what they want. And so, what starts out as simple television censorship, saying, no more cursing on television, turns out no, people push it even further. This is going beyond television. Before you know it, people with the name even adjacent to Smoo, so like Sue or Lou, they had to change their name to Millie or Bob or something like that. And it's just terrible because now, these dinosaurs that have been butt naked, I'm just kidding, not butt naked, but they don't be wearing pants until this episode. And thank goodness, only this episode. Let's get a look at that. Yeah. Yikes. And so, it's definitely a huge statement on how the snowball effect of censorship, You start off with taking a curse word off the air, and before you know it, you're forcing cartoon dinosaurs who don't even have anything going on down there to wear pants and pantyhose. Now that's real torture. And the most haunting thing about this episode is the fact that it's never implied that it's changed back immediately or anything like that. At the end of the episode, baby Sinclair figures it out. He's like, yep, I'm going to stop cursing. I want you to read to me. And Grandma's like, hell yeah, child, let's do it. Let me read you the story of little Timmy and the gun again, the Gatling gun. And that's all it took. Meanwhile, Pangea would probably be changed forever. They went backwards on the whole forcing pants kind of thing. but, well, another slip towards a very controlled future. And that wraps it up for part 2 of censorship, and the many ways that it can come for your freedom. Your freedom of speech, or your freedom to dress, or really any of the above. So, don't say we weren't warned. Who would have thought it would be from the Sinclair family, a bunch of dinosaurs dancing around in costumes on television? But they're real. They're real to me. I'll see y'all next time. Hopefully we can get to a substantial amount of subscribers sometime soon, because that's when we're going to do the Nuts to War special that they did. There's an actual two-parter special in the Dinosaur series that I would love to talk about. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, or don't. I don't really care. I just enjoy talking about this and bringing this show to more people. Yeah, have a good day. Reverse howdy. Goodbye.